Hi! Today we will be learning how to create a full MERN stack application. And with MERN I mean MongoDB, Express, React and Node.js. There's also a stack called PERN, which will then be, instead of MongoDB, will be Postgres, Express, React and Node.js. But for today we will look at the MERN stack. Don't worry, it will sound like a lot, but I'll explain everything step by step so it makes sense. By the end of this video, you'll know how to set up a backend server using Node.js and Express, use Firebase for authentication, connect to a MongoDB database, and this time we will not use Docker. We will build a React app using Vite to show and manage the data, and we'll deploy our work online using Firebase and Vercel. So let's have a look. We will start with the backend. And remember, backend is like the brain of our app, the interesting part. It manages the data and it handles the requests from the front end. So to do that, we first set up a new folder, and we will call this folder server. You can also call it backend if you like. For now, we will call it server. I'm going to open up the terminal, and I'm going to cd into the server, and we say npm init -y. Oh, sorry. There we go. So what we have just done is we've initialized our project, and it's created our, if you open it up, our package.json file, and this file will help us to manage our dependencies. And the dependencies are then our tools that we will use in the backend. Okay, so let's install a few dependencies here. npm I express, we do mongoose for MongoDB, we do .env, and we do Firebase admin. So by using the spaces, it means we can do 1 Express, 2 Mongoose, 3 .env, and 4 Firebase admin as 4 different dependencies. Enter, and we will see they will populate our package.json file. There they are, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm also going to say type and module, so we can use the ES6. Great. We also want to install NodeMon as a dev dependency, so we npm I -D NodeMon, and you will see that it will install NodeMon as a dev dependency. And if we want to run that, we can say dev, or you can say anything else that you want, and we say NodeMon, and we will say index.js. Okay. So now when we say npm run dev, it will start a file called index.js that we will make now. And if we save any changes, we don't have to restart the server. So let's create a file called index.js. And in here, we will add, we'll say import express from Express. We will also import mongoose from mongoose, and import .env from, you can guess it, .env. Now let's load the environment variables by typing in .env dot, and what we do here is we say config and the 2 brackets. So this will load our environment variables. Oh, what a word. Let's say const app equals express. We've done that many times. And we say app.use. And then we say express.json. And this part is middleware, and it will help us to parse our JSON requests. Now we also need to create a file called .env, and we say dot like this, env. And this in here we will store our sensitive information like database passwords, just to keep our code secure. We don't want the codes in our the passwords in our code. So that is there. Let's, in our index.js, make a connection with Mongoose. So we can say Mongoose. And in here, we can say connect. And then if we want to use the environment variables, we say process.env dot, and I'm going to say Mongo underscore URI, and let's see, and after we connect, we're gonna say console.log connected to MongoDB, and if there's an error, we want to catch the error. And if there's an error, we want to say console.error could not connect to MongoDB, and we want to pass in the error there. And then this variable here we can stick in there, and we have to attach the value to that. So to get this variable here, let's open up Google here and there, and I'm going to go to MongoDB and either log in if you have an account or create an account. So I think I have one here. No, you know what I'll do is I will say I'll sign up with Google. There. And now I'm in. Great. And I'm going to click on create. I'm going to choose my free tier. There. I'm going to leave this as the way it is, and I'm going to say create deployment. Here I'm going to say MERN user. I'm just going to copy this, and I just want it in there for now. And I'll say username, and I also want password for now. I'm going to click on choose a connection method. Oh, I need to click create and then choose. And now I'm going to copy this here and copy it in here. There. I don't need this. This is actually built in. See, user and password. Save. This file here should actually be in my server file there. Move it in. And same for my .env file. Move it. And I also changed this. This was misspelled. .env.config. So now if I click here, so I can say npm run dev, then you can see connect to MongoDB. I'm going to say that it actually is connected. So now we just connect it to MongoDB. Good, let's move on. Now I want to set up a few folders in here. So I'm going to click on new folder and I'm going to create a source folder. And in here, I want to create a models folder. I also want to create a routes folder. I also want to create a controllers folder. I also want to create a middleware folder. Then inside of my models folder here, I'm going to create a file called item.js. Inside of my routes folder then, here, I'm going to create one that is an item controller.js. Not item controller, that's in my controllers folder. Item routes.js. And then in here, as I said, I want to do an item controller.js file. And the middleware we get to in a minute. So first, let's set up our model here. So we're going to create an item model now in our models folder. And models define the structure of our data. So I'm going to first say import mongoose from mongoose. Then we're going to create the item schema. And we're going to say new mongoose dot schema. And we've done this in the previous lesson. So we want the name, and we're going to say type is string, and we want it to be required. So we say true. And we also want the minimum length of 3 characters. And we also want a field called quantity. And this is of type number. We want this to be required, so we also say required true. And we also want a minimum length. Actually, here we do minimum of 1 character. There, so not minimum length, minimum amount of digits is 1. So we say const item equals mongoose.model item schema. And if we want to be able to use this, we need to export it. And we say export default item. Now that we have the model set up, we can use this. and we can add some functionality. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to paste in the code from our last lesson, or at least part of it. You see here, we tried all these with Insomnia. But in here at the top, we're just going to import item from, and what we need to do is we need to go up one, then we need to go into our models, and we want the item there, and in there we want the item No, I did it right already. I just want to rename this file here to item model there, just to clarify that. Yes, now it's correct. And we don't want this part here. Instead, what's going to happen here is this is going to fetch all of them. So I'm going to say export const get all items equals this. So now I can take this function later and use it elsewhere without having to write all that code in one file. So we do the same here. Const get item by name equals and export exports const get item by quantity equals export const get sorted items equals, take away those brackets as well, const get grouped items equals export const get item count equals, and then we go move on to we post something, so we create it instead of getting it. So we can say export const create item equals and here we can say export const update item by ID equals no, this one was update and this one was patch. Export const update item by ID equals export const delete item delete, this one was many items, equals and this one here is by ID, export const delete item by ID equals there. And then now in my routes over here, what I can say is import express from express, and I can now import all of the routes that I created here. So let's see here, get all items, get items by name. So get all items, and I'm just going to do this quickly. Get let's say items by name, items by quantity, get items by name, get items by quantity. What else? Get sorted items, get grouped items, get sorted items, get grouped items, get item counts, get item counts, create item, patch item by ID, patch item by update item by ID, I think it was, update item by ID, yeah, delete many, delete many items, delete item by ID, that's it, okay. And all this is from, and then we need to see, we need to go up one, and we are in the controllers and the items controller, there. And now we can set up some routes. So we can set const router equals not that, express dot router. And what we can do is now we can say router dot get, and what we can see here, I'm going to show you, is we want to get the items, and we pass in, if we go to items, we're going to say get all items, the first one there. I'm going to set this up for every single one of them. So router.get, for the get ones, of course. And then we're going to say items. The second one is going to be name. And I need to put in those brackets there. And we pass in the second one, get items by name. Next one, router dot get, and we say items, and this is going to be quantity. And we're going to pass in get items by quantity. And next one, router.get items, and these are sorted, and we pass in the get sorted items. You can see that these are getting lighter, so these are being used. Router, and I'm going to go through all of them. Dot get items, and these are going to be grouped. And then we say get grouped items. One more. Router dot get items, and now we're going to say count get what was it? Item counts. Now we're going to say router dot, but what do we do here on that one is we're going to create an item, and if you look here, create item, here is we're going to post something here. So router.post, and we're still going to go to items like this. We can go to the root there. Then what we're going to pass in is the create item, and we continue. Oh, and not prototype, post. The next one is going to be a patch. Items, and it's by ID, so we're going to take in the ID from the params, and we're going to say patch item by ID. The next one is put items, and it's also by ID, and we're going to pass in update items by ID. Router dot delete items, and this is going to be delete many, and we're going to say delete many items. And the last one, router dot delete items, and we take it by the ID, delete item by ID there. And to be able to use this elsewhere, we need to export this. So export default router there. So now we have in the models folder a file explaining what the item looks like. So the item schema here has a name and a quantity. Then we can see here what we can do. Here's the functionality. So you can see here what it does, and then we can sort it with the routes here, and we pass in the functionality. So it's all nice and clean. Great. So we refactored our code. Great. Let's move on. Now let's also create the front end so that we can interact with our back end. Creating the front end is important because the front end allows the users, our users, to easily view, add and manage items visually instead of using code. We'll do that by creating a folder, a new folder here, and we call this client. Let's cd into client, and we're going to say npm create vite add latest and a dot behind it. I'm going to say yes. We want to use React and we want to use TypeScript. Now we're going to say npm install. And we will also install NodeMon as a dev dependency. Let's just double check this. There's NodeMon. And we want to install Axios like that. Let's see if it works. npm run dev. And we can see it works. Okay. Now let's go out of it for a second, and we will say here. Oh no, actually we don't have to do NodeMon because we already have beat. My mistake. There. Okay, let's move on. In our source folder here, we're going to install another folder called components, and in here I'm going to create a file called item list.tsx and also an item form.tsx and also one update form.tsx. I'm making all these spelling mistakes here. Form, still. And not from here either. Rename form. Okay. So we will have a form for the items, and we'll have an update form to update them, and a list. Okay, let's start with the item list. So we're going to say import React from React, and for now I only want to use state and use effect. Those are the two I probably want. Import Axios, and now we're going to say const item equals, and we'll have an ID which is going to be a string, a name, it's going to be a string, and a quantity, which is going to be a number. There. So then we say const item list equals arrow function, and actually we can do RAFCE there. That's going to be a little easier. So item list and we're going to say const items, comma, set items equals use state, and this is going to be an item array. And it starts off as an empty array. So then we're going to say const fetch items equals another function, try catch, and if there's an error we will console dot error failed to fetch items. And we pass in the error. There. Then the logic is, well, we use the Axios. So we say const response equals, and Axios is asynchronous, so we have to do async await axios.get, and we will get it from, we'll say, for now, we will say HTTP. We'll have to change this later. Local host 5000 / items. Okay, we will need to change this. And then we say set items, and we're going to pass in response.data. So the data we get back from our Axios GET request. There. Then we will do another one. So we have fetch items, and we'll do delete item, const delete item equals and try catch, and copy this, failed to delete item there. And what we will do here, async and await Axios dot, we'll do delete, and we're going to pass in, because we want a specific ID which is of type string, and here we want to do the backticks, and we'll do the same one here. We will have to change this later. Localhost 5000 /forward items /forward, and then we're going to pass in the ID there. Okay. Let's add a use effect here. In there, a function. And starting off with an empty array. And in here, we're going to call the fetch items function. Like so. Okay, now let's use these functions here. So what are we going to return? Actually, let's just start with a div. H2, and we'll call it items. Then a table header, a table row, and a table header, calling name, name, quantity, and actions. There. Then we're going to start with the table body. And in there, we're going to map. So from the items, we want to map the map function, the method. And per item, what we want is we want a new table row, and it needs a key, which is going to be the item dot ID, and then we want the item dot name, and item dot quantity, and we also want in there a button. The button will say delete, and it will have an onClick function. Actually, I can just call it delete item in there. And then by the ID. There. And what you can see here, the map is not returning anything here, so I can say return. And I need to put it in brackets. There. I can also just say, instead of this, I can take away this and this. And then I can take away this. Let's see here. Nope, that is, I'm not doing it right. Let me do it again. This one here is that one there. So I'm going to just turn those into these return brackets here. There. There we go. Oh, and I only see it now. I did const instead of type. That's what I wanted. Now let's also create an item form. So we're going to say import, and we'll use state and Axios. There. Then we're going to say RAFCE. going to say const name, comma, set name equals use state, and it's going to be empty from the beginning. And we'll do const, and we do same for quantity, comma, set quantity equals use state, and we'll have it set to 1. Then we're going to say const and create item equals async, because we're going to use Axios, and we'll do try catch, and if there is an error, and we're going to console dot error, and we're going to say fail to create item, and we're going to pass in the error. Okay, here async await axios.post, and again we need to change this later. I'm just going to say localhost 5000/items, and we'll pass in the name and the quantity. This goes there. And we can send an alert, and it says item created. There. Okay, let's create the form. So we'll leave return in there. Form. And I need to keep the brackets, of course. So and we're going to say on submit equals, and we're going to say prevent defaults. We don't want the form to do what it normally does. Let's see here. There. Okay, then we put an H2 in there. Add item. We want a label. And want a name. Name. And we want an input. And we want a type of text. We want the value to be name. And we want an unchange. E. And then we want to set name E dot target dot value there. and we want the input to be required. There. Okay. Then we will have a button, and the button will be of type submit, and we will say add. There. Okay. We, by the way, also want one for the quantity, not just for the name. So quantity, and then here we want to say set quantity. And what you can see here is I'm getting a message here that this is a string, so we want to make this into an integer. So what we can say is parse int, and then put it in there, like so. So these two components now, item list and item form, I can put them in my app.tsx file. So I'll take this away. There. I take this away. I take this away. I take this away. And what I'll do now is I'm going to say a div there, a h1 there, and I'm going to say item management, and now I'm going to pull in the item form. You can see it's imported it from there, and I also want the item list there. So let's have a look here, and click, and it looks like this. There. So let's try banana. Oh, and I need to change this. You see how it's the same? So let's have a look at our code. So you can see we have the two labels here, and you see name, and this one says name too, but this of course should say quantity. There. Okay. So we'll try it again. I'll open it up. You see it's default not by one. Banana, add, and it's not working. What mistake have I made? Is it showing something here? Right, I think, of course, because we have not fixed this yet. So let's fix this problem here with the backend. Okay, so I had a quick look, and I've made some quick changes here that I'll go over with you. First of all, I insert the port env variable here, or 3001. I've actually already set this one to 3001, so there's no difference there. And then we said app.listen, and we wanted to listen to this port, and then saying service running on port 3001. Okay. I've also imported router from source, routes, and item routes here. And so now when we go to items here, we go to /API/items. If I take this away, which I can do too, then I don't have to have this API in there. But I think it's nice and clear, so I'll leave that in there. I've also checked that all my imports end with .js here, if it's a JS file, so it's ES6 compatible. Good. I have also got the file ready. I've copied the git ignore file from my client side, because when I add this to GitHub, I don't want my node modules in there. So this is the same file as in the client, and I also added the .env, and I should also do that here in the client if I've not done that yet. Yeah. There, because I don't want it there either. Great. Now let's get this up on GitHub and then connect it to Vercel. Let's do that now. So I've opened up my GitHub account here and clicked on the plus for new repository. And here I'm going to say Vercel deploy for now. And create. I'm going to copy this there. Then I'm going to my root directory here, and I'm going to paste this in there. Let's go back to my GitHub account and refresh, and you can see it's there now. And let's see here, we have that file in there. I think we have everything in there now. Let me go back again. Yeah, so everything is good. All right. So let's have a look at Vercel. Vercel. So create an account with GitHub if you haven't done so yet. And then we can click on the dashboard here and click add new projects. So you see here's my GitHub projects. I'm going to import this. And I'm going to say this one is the server, and we leave this to other. For the root, we will have to pick the server there, and the environment variables, we have 2 of them. So let's have a look here. And the server here, we have this one here, the Mongo_URI. Copy this. And its value. And we have the port 3001. And then we click on deploy. To get this running nicely, we also have to add this vercel.json file in our server, and we have a version, builds and routes, and the version is the version of the Vercel platform, and usually that's number 2. Then we have the builds, and they specify that we're building this with Node, and we use the index.js file as our entry point. And then we have the routes, and they divide custom routing. So we have the API routing there, and we have our destination index.js. Okay, let's go back here. Let's have a look if this works. Where is it? Where is it? And you can see it seems to work. And now we have to add the front end, and we have to change our localhost to this part now. So in our client side here, in our components, this part here, remember we said we have to change that there. And it's the post, so API, save, and this one here. API, those are the ones. Okay, let's say git add, so we have everything again. Git commit, updated, from localhost to Vercel. Git push origin master. There. Let's go back to Vercel and let's click on new projects. Projects, import client, this time we have built it with Vite, and we want to choose the client here, and we have some environment variables here as well. Or did we not have any there? I guess we did not have any there. Okay. Then we click on deploy. Okay, so now we can try this out. So let's add something, banana, and add. And I just discovered I hadn't made a database yet here in my Mongo. So I did that. I created a database and I've called it CRUD. So CRUD is my database name. Then I went into, let me pull up Visual Studio Code again. Then behind my MongoDB URI, my connection, I specified the database in here. So CRUD is the name of the database. And what else did I do? I also made a change here, is that in my Vercel, I take away API in here. I just slash forward to the main. Same here, I took this away. And in my clients, I also took that API away. I actually didn't see the need for it right now. So it was set API here before. So I took all that away. And I did another thing actually, now that I paused the video a minute ago, is in my components here, in my list here, I have a use effect. And when I deleted an item, it wasn't running the use effect. So right now, I said, okay, once you delete something, run this function again. And when I run this, it updates. So let's have a look now. I'm going to say banana, and I'm going to have 12. Okay, right now I've added it, but it's not updating. So I'll say refresh. Yeah, sorry, I had an old window open. So if I say here strawberry, and I say 12 of them, then it says it's created it, but it's not refreshing here. So I just need to refresh here. And if I click delete, it removes it because it doesn't fetch items. So let me just do strawberry, 12 of them. Okay, and I say banana, and I might have 124. Okay, I refresh, they show up here. And if I then open up my items here, I can see my strawberry and my bananas. So there we go, everything works nicely. I could do, if I add this, so if I say apple 10, if I want to add this, let me just show you how to, and there we go. When we click delete, it deletes the items until it's empty. This is enough for this video. It's been a long one. It shows you how to get everything online. We have learned now how to get the front end on Vercel, the back end with the APIs on Vercel, and how they communicate between each other. I hope it's been helpful. Please feel free to rewatch the video, even though it's a long one. Look at sections, and I hope you learn from it. Good luck.